How's it going, everyone? Back with another Amazon review. This time, the pickleball craze. This was panel sound pickleballs, the USA PA approved fiberglass pickleball. Comes with a carrying case, 2 towels, and 4 pickleballs. These are the towels. I'm not sure about them. This case, fairly chintzy, but it's kind of nice. Whole thing was $24.99, I believe. So let's pull these bad boys out. 2 yellow, 2 green, and this is my first pickleball set, so I don't know if these feel legit or not, but yeah, they're firm. Here comes the 2 paddles. Nice. They come in with some protective garb there, bubble wrap. These feel like a quality paddle. Grip is pretty good. Feels doesn't feel chintzy. Solid piece construction. I'm gonna go give it a try. I just got back from the pickleball courts, first time out, and these things did not disappoint. I think this is a tremendous deal. 2 pickleball rackets, 4 balls, carrying case, and a couple random towels that may get used at some point, but heck of a deal. I recommend it.